Well, Snapchat's 24-year-old CEO Evan Spiegel has a bit of an image problem to shake. He's been called cocky, entitled, inexperienced, yet he is leading a startup valued at more than $15 billion. Bloomberg reporters Brad Stone and Sarah Fryer recently got a rare chance to sit down with Spiegel and asked why he so rarely does press. He says this, you know what, is hard, and told us that some things weren't just off the record, but off the effing record. Joining us now for more on Snapchat's leader and where this company is heading, our Bloomberg contributing editor David Kirkpatrick, with us from New York, also with me here in San Francisco, JMP Securities analyst Alex Gauna. David, I want to start with you because you wrote the book on Mark Zuckerberg. You followed him for a long time. He's a guy who didn't have the most flattering reputation in his earlier years. What similarities and differences do you see in Mark and Evan? Do you see more similarities or more differences?
I see a lot of differences. Actually, I think Zuckerberg's reputation when he was younger was mostly undeserved, and a lot of it flowed from a very misleading movie that was quite popular. Whereas, you know, you've seen the tax from multiple things that Evan Spiegel has done that make you question his judgment. But then again, as he says in the news article that you guys just published, he is only 24. People are entitled to make mistakes when they're 24. It's just up until recently, we didn't have investors willing to throw money at them so they could run a $15 billion company. I think he's still proving himself. It sounded from the article like he thinks that himself, actually.
There's also a lot of interesting numbers crammed into this article, one of them being, Alex, that Snapchat gets 2 billion video views a day, which is, as I understand it, half of Facebook's, though Facebook has 10 times as many users. Is that as big as it sounds?
Absolutely it is, and it's a phenomenal achievement for this young a company. And so naturally there's going to be a certain amount of confidence that goes along with that, and you'd like to see in an executive a lot of drive as well, because the game is far from being over. And
it doesn't matter how much they swear. Is that what you're saying?
Well, there have been a number of executives that have done very well in this world that have profanity as one of their calling cards. So I'm not going to hold that against the young man. Wouldn't be my first choice in addressing a company or when doing an interview, but that's not just, I'm not running a $15 billion company either. So at the end of the day, though, what was very interesting in the commentary that you had in your article about what Evan is doing is that we don't get it, right? It's a brave new world of new media right now, and JMP Securities thinks he's right on in that, and so is GoPro, a company that's already, you know, making its name in action cameras right now, but has outlined a new media strategy. So the world is changing very dramatically, and Evan, as a young CEO, I think is in a very good position to be a catalyst of that change.
We're going to be speaking about a company that's trying to take on GoPros in the next segment, but first I want to hit on something that you mentioned, which is we just don't know what the future of Snapchat is. Chamath Palihapitiya, a longtime former Facebook executive, said in this piece, and I quote, "At worst, Snapchat is the next generation MTV. At best, they are the next generation Viacom." David, what do you make of that statement? It's like Snapchat is either everything or nothing.
I think the next generation Viacom is a very good analogy. When I was emailing with your producer, I made an analogy with Disney, which I think you know, they're sort of an LA-based company with an LA-based media mindset. But what they're doing is they're creating, you know, bite-sized media for a bite-sized media age, and it's something very different. I actually think the videos that they do have in large number are not the same as Facebook and YouTube's, and shouldn't really be compared because they're just so much more minor, but yet they are vast in number. And people are using this as an entertainment medium, there's no question, and a communications medium. It's something changing so quickly before our eyes that it's true that people like me, who baby boomers, have trouble understanding it. And I've been skeptical, I have to say.
Look, David, I'm just a little bit younger than you, but I also have a hard time understanding it. Even though I've used Snapchat, I don't use it every day to communicate with my friends. I walked into an ice cream shop the other day, and literally every kid in line was Snapchatting their ice cream flavors. They weren't saying anything of value. They weren't, you know, talking about what they were going to do tomorrow. They were just talking about whether they wanted chocolate chip or not. On the other hand, Alex, you know, the ad rates are actually dropping. You had at one point them charging $100 per 1,000 views. Now it's down to $20 per 1,000 views. What's going on there?
Well, that's the whole thing right now, Emily. The landscape is changing very rapidly. Pricing structures are changing rapidly. They tried something. They tried an elevated price point. It would appear that it didn't take. Now, that's not to say that they can't come back to different pricing SKUs going forward as they continue to grow. So we'll have to see where the pricing goes ultimately. But the thing is, I would come back and challenge you, what's not important about Snapchatting your favorite ice cream flavor? That's a wonderful form of social community. It's tying peoples together across time and space. It's wonderful. So anyway, Snapchat is doing something very important in the world right now. They can go a lot of different directions, and it'll be interesting to see which one they go in.
Well, I do like ice cream. I will agree with you on that. David, what about this idea that they might be getting into e-commerce with an investment in Spring? By the way, we asked Snapchat about that investment in particular, and they didn't comment on it. But what about e-commerce as a potential revenue stream?
Certainly they're interested in that. They have to be. I've been really following Snapchat with more enthusiasm and interest since my friend Imran Khan, who used to be one of the smartest guys on Wall Street about tech, went there as head of strategy. But one of the things interesting about Imran is he has always been deeply involved with the Chinese internet companies. And I think the fact that Alibaba and Tencent both own pieces of Snapchat is something to keep a close eye on in terms of its future.